Dune director Denis Villeneuve recently made some interesting comments about why he's changed his mind and moved his timetable for filming his third Dune film, which will be an adaptation of Frank Herbert's Dune Messiah. So initially, Villeneuve had said several times during press for Dune Part 2 and throughout its release window that it was his dream to adapt Dune Messiah as well. He wasn't sure about after that, but Dune Messiah would be a dream of his to finish a trilogy of movies. He thought that that would be a nice way to bookend these films. But he said several times that, well, I'm going to have to take a break, maybe do something else. He's attached to numerous other projects, Rendezvous with Rama being one of them, but also a Cleopatra film, a nuclear war, a scenario adaptation, another science fiction romance story. He definitely has a lot of projects that he is involved with. He's talked about, I think, a couple times. Why did he decide to go ahead and jump right in to Dune Messiah? So we have a rumored premiere date that Warner Brothers is holding for a Denis Villeneuve event film in December of 2026. So that might be when he's striving to work towards for Dune Messiah. We still have yet official confirmation on that, but it seems likely that's the case. So this was an article from Collider, and they did an interview with Denis Villeneuve, who spoke about why he wanted to prioritize his adaptation of Dune Messiah. And the headline is, "A Responsibility to Finish That Story. Here's why Dune Messiah is moving forward earlier than planned." And it begins saying, Dune Part 2 was one of the biggest movies of 2024, and although the film earned higher scores than its predecessor from both critics and audiences on Rotten Tomatoes, it received only 5 Oscar nominations, which is significantly less than Dune Part 1, which won 6 Academy Awards. Director Denis Villeneuve has confirmed that work on Dune Messiah has already begun. The work that he's doing right now is he's still working on the script. He has been for quite a while. I think as Dune Part 2 press was happening leading up to the release of that, he said at the time that he was working on it, that he was writing it, and several other interviews, he's just confirmed the same thing, that he's still writing the script, still working on it. So it's still in that early stage of development. He likes to keep things close to the vest as far as his creative process, so I'm not sure where he is at writing the script, but that's what he's been saying over and over in these interviews. He may be farther along than he is letting on, but that's the work that's being done. So although the film is in the early stages of development, i.e. ironing out the script, things are rolling much sooner than anyone had expected after Villeneuve had previously said he wasn't sure he would ever return to Arrakis. During a press Q&A at the Saturn Awards attended by Collider's Aidan Kelly, Villeneuve spoke about what inspired him to get back in the saddle, as well as where we pick up in Dune Messiah. Denis Villeneuve said, quote, "Chani's heart is broken, and it's the beginning of the Holy War, and that's where we left. So in a way, I'd say it's quite similar." I guess he's speaking to Dune Messiah. "I was expecting to do something else before, but frankly, that's the inspiration that came to my mind as I took a break this summer and was going back and finishing the story. I was really moved by the way Part 2 was received by cinephiles around the world, and I felt an appetite and a desire to see more and a responsibility to finish that story." And I think that desire was there too. I mean, cinematically, it was a stunning film, a great science fiction film. Personally, I liked Part 1 a little bit more, but there was a lot to love in Part 2. Fade Rotha was great. I love the whole Getty Prime sequence, and the sandworm writing was really well done. And with Paul Atreides' storyline, that really stood out to me as the best part of that, to see the fulfillment of his storyline. But it does end on a bit of a cliffhanger, more so than the source material does. Now, I would say it's a cliffhanger because in regards to Chani, after said holy war begins, she is seen leaving the palace and running off into the desert, and it's very much left hanging. So I can see why people were really wanting more in that sense. You just got the sense that they were teasing the next story to come, which is the sequel novel, Dune Messiah. So I think, yeah, people did have that urge to see what was next. Everyone just assumed it was going to be longer, though. And it made sense, I guess, too, because there is 12 years between Dune and Dune Messiah. We'll see how the timeline goes. The article continues, there has been some deliberation among the fan base as to where Dune Messiah will pick up after Dune Part 2, but Villeneuve recently revealed Messiah would pick up 12 years after Part 2, but it sounds like he'll still work to fill in the gaps. I think he said that in regards to the source material itself. He has already played with the timeline with that first story of Dune. There is a progression of several years in that first story that happens that gets condensed into several months. Lady Jessica gives birth to Aaliyah Atreides. She's already a toddler by the time the story of Dune ends. So the timeline has been fiddled with. So I wouldn't say it's a definite thing that the movie itself is going to be set 12 years. I wouldn't put it past Denis to do some tinkering. Also, Anya Taylor-Joy is reprising her role, so I think more than 12 years might have passed for her to reach that age of the actress. So we'll see if they change anything as far as either the source material goes in relation to Aaliyah Atreides, or there just might be a more extended period of time between the films Dune and Dune Messiah. So we'll see how that works out. But I do think he was just speaking in reference to the source material itself when talking about the 12-year gap. But that's the reason there was that demand from fans and audiences, cinephiles around the world had that appetite, and he felt that responsibility to finish it. And yeah, we can nitpick it as far as an adaptation goes, but we can't deny its cinematic achievements. And I think it really did a lot to just showcase grand scale science fiction. And I think that's great. All of the Dune adaptations have their highs and lows as far as adaptation and changes that they made in their individual interpretations. But I think altogether they create something really special and showcase in their own way the fascinating universe of Frank Herbert's characters and story and themes. They're all special in that way. Chani has 2 to 3 of Paul's kids. What is the point of acting like they won't get back together? Maybe he doesn't want to give too much away. I think he kind of did that in press for the previous 2 movies. He was tongue-in-cheek. He was tight-lipped about certain things. Even though it is a book that's been around for decades, he seemed a bit coy at times, not wanting to give things away. And same thing goes for Dune Messiah. There is one big thing that is, I guess, a spoiler for one particular character's return, and all the Dune fans know who I'm talking about for Dune Messiah, but that's always kind of been danced around by the cast and crew because they don't want to give it away. I just think that's so funny because Frank Herbert did not care about spoilers. It's just so funny to me because he's so anti-spoiler. He just tells you right from the beginning. In both Dune and Dune Messiah, he tells you what the plan is. He tells you in Dune who the traitor among House Atreides is. He tells you right from the start. And the first moment that we see the Baron and Pina de Vries and Feyd-Rautha, they're having this conversation. They're revealing the plan. They're talking about their plans and who the traitor is. It's just all revealed right from the beginning because the story is not about that. It's not about those revelations. It's about the journey, and it's cluing in the reader to that journey from the very beginning. So we see from the traitor's perspective what's going on in his head to do this, to betray the ones he seemingly loves. So I think it's brilliant storytelling, but I guess for when you're adapting such a story to film, you can't resist but to use those opportunities for shocking reveals and to make it more entertaining and from a film perspective for the audience to be taken aback by these major reveals. But yeah, there's just like several big reveals that just don't hit the same when you read it because we're just clued in on all of these things that are shocking that happen to the characters, but it's not the reveal itself that is shocking. It is just another stepping stone in a character's journey and transformation. So yeah, every time I hear that, oh, spoilers, I can't talk about spoilers. Not just me, but actors themselves, because Timothée Chalamet got in trouble, I think, one time doing an interview and he said which character will return. But yeah, I just think that's hilarious. I would like to see a prologue to Dune Messiah showing Aaliyah as the toddler and how she got her nickname of Saint Aaliyah of the Knife. I wonder if they're even going to do that or even have her be known as that. It's so important to her as a character, but that's a big question mark for me. I really hope they do justice for Aaliyah. She's one of the most complex and tragic characters of this saga, and there is some making up to do in regards to both her story and Lady Jessica's story as well, because there's a huge portion that was missing from that original Dune story of her just having to come to terms with her actions and the consequences of that, of her going through the water of life ceremony knowingly and putting her daughter at risk, not knowing what would happen, and then seeing the consequences of the fact that her daughter is doomed to never have a childhood, and how tragic that is. What we've seen so far of Denis Villeneuve's first two movies for Dune, it is very much a streamlined version of Frank Herbert's story. It's like bullet points as opposed to this huge world-building mythology. Streamlined with the film audience in mind to make it more accessible to non-Dune fans. I can appreciate that as well, to not overwhelm the audience, in particular for films when you go to the theater. There is a delicate balance there when it comes to exposition, when it comes to world building, that you have to balance against making something entertaining to watch. If it's approaching a 3-hour film, that you don't feel those 3 hours. And I think that Denis Villeneuve did a good job on that. I think both of them were under 3 hours, around 2 hours, 40 something minutes. And honestly, I wanted more. I think they could have surpassed 3 hours because I didn't feel any of that time tick by. I did appreciate that from a cinematic standpoint. It was entertaining to watch. It was enthralling. It didn't feel like any particular moment dragged. So there definitely is a balance there. Telling a story with such heavy source material, world building, and depth in a way that's accessible to everyone, not just Dune fans, and done in a way that's entertaining. So I think we can expect to see the same approach with Dune Messiah, being a very streamlined version of the story. Given that it's such a short book, I think there is an opportunity to feature more of the source material and provide more connective tissue to bridge the time gap. But in addition to the director's comments about why he changed his mind and decided to make this film earlier, I also think that the return of key characters and the aging of actors, especially Aaliyah and others, make timing more crucial. If they want to avoid using de-aging effects, bringing the cast back sooner, I feel is a smart decision. And for the actors that won't appear to have aged at all, I think it can easily be explained within the canon as having to do with the effects of spice. So there's ways to be able to believably tell the story of Dune Messiah sooner while still maintaining the time jump. But I'm curious to know what you think of Villeneuve's decision to make his adaptation of Dune Messiah earlier than he initially wanted. Do you think it's best to make the film sooner rather than later? And given the streamlined approach to the first two Dune films, are there any elements you feel he must include in the next film? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more Dune and other sci-fi and fantasy news, theories, and lore. And if you're looking for other ways to show your appreciation, you can check out my Patreon page, where members get access to exclusive content and perks. Thank you all so much for your support, and as always, have a very nerdy day.